no matter what I do, no matter what I expect from my team members, I need to represent it myself as a CEO.
Welcome to Higher Learning. I am your host, Oz Rashid. This is more than just a podcast. It's a front row seat to how elite leaders build the most iconic of teams. The kind of leaders who spot potential that others overlook, who build cultures people don't want to leave, who set the bar, then raise it. Work and how we work is evolving at a rapid pace like no time in history. Our guests will give you insights on how to stay out in front when it comes to all things talent, leadership, management, artificial intelligence, and developing the skills that actually matter. Whether you're a founder, hiring manager, or just obsessed with building teams the right way, this is your spot. If it's your first time here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button, drop a rating, tell a friend who gets it. To our longtime listeners, we appreciate you. Thanks for the continued support. Now, let's get into it. Today, we are joined by a very special guest. We are joined by Dariya Golan. Dariya is a powerhouse healthcare executive with nearly 2 decades of experience leading turnarounds, scaling performance, and transforming patient and physician experience. She's the CEO of the Advanced Surgery Center of Clifton at SCA Health, where she grew EBITDA by 500%, rebuilt culture from the ground up, and turned a struggling center into one of the SCA's top performers. Before that, she spent over 6 years at Northwell Health leading hospital operations, launching major programs, including their first anesthesia residency. But what makes Dariya really stand out is her blend of strategy, grit, and entrepreneurial drive. She's built businesses, led teams through change, and created systems that actually work. She's the kind of leader who doesn't just manage results, she transformed them. In today's conversation, we're going to go through a lot of topics. We'll get into her journey about becoming a CEO, when she knew she was ready to make that leap, what she believes the CEO's role truly is when it comes to shaping culture, and how she partners with HR to keep alignment strong and create a great culture in a large healthcare organization. Dariya, how you doing?
Hi, Oz. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
I'm very excited to be here. I'm about 3.5 coffees deep, so my energy is populating, but I'm so excited about this show. Tell us, you are based out of what area?
I'm in New Jersey, so it's a New York City tri-state area.
Beautiful New Jersey. How's the weather today? Is it getting colder? Are you starting to see fall in the air?
Yes, it is a beautiful fall in New Jersey right now. Really enjoying the nice, crisp weather. I actually ran New York City Marathon this past Sunday, and weather couldn't be better. One of the best.
Congratulations. We got to talk about that for a minute now. Okay, is that your first marathon or you've run marathons before?
No, it was my 12th marathon and 8th New York City Marathon. I love New York City Marathon. It's the best day of the year, and I do it every year as long as I can.
What does the running do for you? What fulfills you about that to keep going back and doing it every time?
So New York City Marathon specifically holds a very special place in my heart because it's the best day of the year. And as there's a saying, if you want to start believing in humanity again, go and see the marathon. And that was my experience when the first time I went to spectate New York City Marathon 2016. I had a very bad year and I needed something to hold on to. And I was looking at all these people of different age, different abilities, different beliefs, you name it. They were running, they were united, and they were finishing the marathon. And I thought, this is what I want to do. But I thought it's going to be just one-off thing. I'm just going to go run and then come back to my regular routine. I got hooked. And for me, running is a lot about resilience, about toughness, about empowerment and strength. And I learned a lot of things, some lessons through running that I bring to my life, personal life, and to my work. It made me stronger as a person. It made me deal better with adversity because at the end of the day, when you do long distance events, you have to be tough mentally. You have to learn how to overcome difficulties, and there's something bigger than you and you can push through. So besides dealing with the stress and feeling better, like for wellness, it also helps with the mental toughness. And New York City Marathon, when the current world where people are so divided, you see all kind of people getting together and enjoying their running and cheering on runners and being so personable. it makes me feel so much better about humanity.
Did we just become a running podcast? Move over, David Goggins. I got a question. I got another running question before we move on. Let's say a chump like me wants to run the marathon next year. What would you tell me I need to start thinking about and doing?
You need to get a program. You need to start following certain structure. And I'm this type of person that I believe if you want to do something very well, you need to have a coach. So I have a coach for all kind of things, and also in my career, at some point I had to hire a career coach to help me with my resume and understanding where I need to move. Same with the running. I used to have a coach in the beginning for running, for triathlon too. I did Ironman as well, so I do these events. Now I kind of can follow the program because I learn a lot. But yeah, you need to start with the program because there's so much going beyond running and having structured workouts. You need to do strength training. You need to make sure that your biomechanics are right, nutrition, hydration, sleep, recovery. A lot of things go into that.
Business owner, marathon runner, CEO. What does Dariya not do? Let's learn more about your experience. Let's learn more about your career. So let's start here. You are the CEO at the Advanced Surgery Center of Clifton for SCA Health. Did you always aspire to be CEO? Or, and if you did, like, how did you know when you were ready to finally take that step?
It's very funny. As I look back, I wanted to be CEO since I was very little. When I was a child, I couldn't write or read yet. I remember like writing, pretending I write. I played executive director. I would collect, yes, I would collect papers and I would collect receipts and I would pretend that I'm signing something very important. And actually, one of my first jobs from university, I'm originally from Ukraine, and I went to school to become a teacher. I never worked as a teacher, but that's my first degree. And then I got master's degree Ukrainian language and literature. And straight out of school, I partnered up with a web developer and we had a web studio, which I ran. And first was two of us, and then we hired people. So I was the CEO of a small business back then. And I fell in love with the entrepreneurial, I had an entrepreneurial mindset and I really enjoyed that. At some point, I felt burned out. I sold the business to my sales manager and I opened a wellness business. Before everybody flooded into internet like 2012, selling online programs and courses and everything else. I was like one of the first back home doing that. And it was very successful. I really enjoyed it. And at some point, I had a team. So I was the CEO of my small business again. But then I moved to the United States and I had to still was making money from that business, but definitely making money in Ukrainian hryvnias, and living in New York City doesn't really match. So I had to go back to school and I got a degree in of psychology, was a concentration psychopathology, because I wanted to be a regional clinical psychologist because mind-body connection, very important. But then I got an opportunity to go and work in healthcare in the hospital. I knew nothing about healthcare, but I really wanted to pivot my career because I didn't see myself being in wellness. And by that time, this business was so flooded with so many different people. The competition was crazy. And moving to the United States, I didn't know much about the business in the United States. So I went work for Northwell, as you mentioned earlier. Amazing company. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. But I had to take a chance. I went to an entry-level position. So basically starting all over from scratch, like moving to the new country. But because I brought my entrepreneurial mindset and approach, and I always treat my work as my own business, I was able to grow from project coordinator to director of operations in the big department in the hospital, like in 3.5 years, which was phenomenal. But I've been enjoying the journey. So I worked in Northville for 6 years, and then it was time to look for something in New Jersey because I started family. Logical move for a lot of people that live in New York City that moved to New Jersey, the suburb. And then I sold the position as a CEO of the Ambulatory Surgery Center, and I thought to myself, I've done this before. I ran a business, and I've learned a lot throughout my career in Northville. I was fortunate to touch almost every single aspect of healthcare from HR to clinical. And I thought I can do it because all of these things are transferable, all the knowledge and experience I have. And yeah, 4 rounds of interviews later, I became a CEO, and it's been really incredible experience, which confirmed I have transferable skills and knowledge, and entrepreneurial mindset really helps to run a multi-million business.
I love that. There's so much there for me to pull strands on. I love the idea of you not being able to read and write and being a little executive director pushing papers everywhere. The story of America is an immigrant story, and I'm just always amazed at some people are like leaving, countries. They were a heart surgeon, or they're leaving, countries where they had successful businesses, and many times the appeal and the draw to come to this country is so much that they're willing to start over and build things back up. And that's why there's so many immigrant success stories, because when you've seen the other side, when you feel like you don't have a choice but to be successful, you put in that work, you have that grit, and look at what it's done for you. You come and you're a CEO now in a successful healthcare organization, obviously having a lot of success, running marathons. Major kudos to you. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing it. Now I want to talk about something that's important to me. Now I'll tell you a little bit about my CEO and entrepreneurial journey. I probably knew at 12 or 13 years old because I love to build things and I didn't take direction very well. So I realized I probably need to figure out what I can do that's going to allow me some autonomy, but also allow me to create and build. And that's why I think eventually it didn't very always go in a linear fashion, but I ended up on the path that I did. One of the things that's always been important to me, though, as a CEO, is this idea of culture, especially as a founder. I feel like the culture, for better or for worse, a lot of times sits at my feet in terms of the things I do, the actions I make, the words I speak, and then it permeates down throughout the team a lot of the time. So I'm really interested to hear from you. You talked about the importance of culture for yourself. What do you see as the CEO's role when it comes to culture? And then I'd like to know, as the CEO, how do you work with HR to ensure alignment and so that they're not building it in absence of kind of your vision and what you think is important for an organization's culture?
I'm here with you as 1000%. Culture is so important. You can have the best product and you can have the best service, but if you don't have a right culture and right people in your company, you're not going to be successful. And I realized that later in my career, when I had my first business, I was a terrible leader, and I learned a lot from these mistakes. So coming and working in there are certain organizations or departments that I had to take over. There were certain challenges and things that I realized they need to be addressed, and the culture was one of them. For example, like in my current place, I came and I had a great culture, but I had to build on it. I had to reinforce it. And it all starts with the leadership. It all starts with the CEO. And it's not only about talking about culture. We need to live the culture. We need to be an example of what we preach. I learned from one of the best mentors in my career that you need to show what you expect from your team members. For example, if I go through my facility and I see something laying on the floor, obviously I expect my team members go and pick it up because we want to maintain the cleanliness of our facility, that our patients happy to come here, and we represent ourselves as the facility that is providing the highest quality of care. So I'm the CEO, I'm gonna ban and pick up this thing and throw it out, and obviously show the high hand hygiene, proper hand hygiene too, because we're in healthcare. But no matter what I do, no matter what I expect from my team members, I need to represent it myself as a CEO. And when it comes to HR, obviously, we need to be in a known all the regulations and laws and everything like that. However, we're not subject matter experts. We need HR to help us to guide, and we have so much on our plate. We can be and should be people that drive the culture, but HR are our partners in that. They help represent our values and work also with the team members to address any concerns or issues. And also to bring here also talent acquisition, because obviously as a CEO, I can hire everyone I want, but I want to make sure that I hire people that are good culture fit. And we all made these hiring mistakes. We hire someone who is the qualifies professional, especially in current market and healthcare. There's a shortage of people that we need, and we need to do cases, we need to do procedures. So we hire whoever is qualified, but you can bring someone to your team and they can destroy everything.
Well, Dar, you got to hold up. We're going to get to the talent part. I mean, you're right in my wheelhouse right now. You're talking talent acquisition as a CEO. It's like, you're in my head. I'm so excited to hear you bring that up as such an important aspect of it. And I definitely want to dive into it. I want to ask you one real thing quick on the culture though, because let's say that somebody else is taking a CEO role in an organization. Okay. And I have to imagine it's difficult to understand what the culture is going in, but I will tell you, it can make or break your success in the role, right? And in the interview, a lot of times you're going to hear what people want to tell you, right? But when you're there and you see it and you feel it, it might be a very different thing. So I'm just interested tactically, how did you kind of get an idea of what you were walking into? How long did it take you to assess it? And then how did you kind of make sure it wasn't just what people were telling you, but what you were seeing and feeling? I'm just really interested for somebody that's going to do the same thing that you're going to do. And it's such an important aspect to their success. What were some of the tactics or approach you took to kind of figure that out?
That's a great question. To your point, people will tell you whatever. And then when you come, you see different things. And what you realize early on, the people will try to pull you in their direction. Everyone will try to push their own agenda because you're new. And the center I came into also had some leadership change. So I had to earn people's trust. But I can't allow myself from where I sit to take people's side without doing proper investigation and observation. So I did take my time to get to know people. I've been rounding, I've been sitting with people one on one. I would go to places where they work. I would chat with them. Sometimes it would be something informal, sometimes asking questions about other people, processes, what we can do, what we can improve. But I did take months to learn about other people and how things work in my center. And some things I saw early on that people are doing a great job. We have a great team. They have each other's back. There's some things, obviously, I noticed that need to be improved. And I had people in my ear that were telling me that so and so is not so great. So and so likes to complain. So, but I cannot allow myself as a leader to take anyone's sides. And I made it clear to my team, I'm going to be here from where I sit as objective as possible. And we have the values that we're going to keep everyone accountable to. But I'm not going to take people's sides and I'm going to operate only from the place of fact and things that I observe. So I know some team members were impatient with me because they felt like some bad apples need to go right away, but I needed to see it for myself. So that's very important to take your time and not to play favorites and not to jump in conclusions because your leadership team thinks certain way. I wanted to show the team that I'm there and I listen and my door is open and it takes time.
Yeah, I love that. I'll tell you something I learned early in my career that really helped me with that because you're right. Especially as a CEO, you're taking in so many different bits of information. There's people that are going to have intent and agenda. They're going to talk to you a certain way or shape things in a certain way. Even like actions and things that you might see might be done for your benefit. And so one of the things that I learned pretty early on in my career was to collect data points, not make judgments. And why I say that is on a long enough timeline, if you get information from different sources or you see it in effect, I'll give you an example. If somebody that I'm meeting for the first time comes late, I'm going to say, you know what? Maybe traffic, maybe an issue, maybe something reasonable, right? Second time they come, I'll probably still give the benefit of that. Okay, we'll see. Third time, now I'm starting to form an opinion of, okay, this person punctuality might not be their best thing. I might need to address it. It might be a conversation. But I only do that after I've collected enough data points to be able to have an informed conversation and decision. And rather than just jumping to judgment, being rash. And I find myself doing that in all different types of the world today. When I read news, what is the intent of this person? Am I getting this from multiple different sources? What are things like that, right? I think it's always best to make sure that to understand that you don't have to form an opinion and create a judgment right away. You can collect more data most of the time. Most of the things don't require a snap of judgment or snap opinion, and then be more informed and more objective to your point. So, maybe if you hear from one person that Sally needs to leave because she's a bad apple, that's one thing. But then maybe, you get a couple other different points of feedback from people, and then you see some things in action. Now you can start to form something and come up with something more credible rather than had you just listened to the first person up front and took what they said as gospel, no matter how much you trust them, no matter how much you rely on them. So I think that's a really, really smart way to go about doing things. And it sounds like, some people maybe have wanted you to move faster and do different things on a different timeline, but it's really incumbent upon you to not be rash and to kind of take everything in before making decisions. And certainly a big part of being a CEO is ultimately making decisions. Giving yourself as much information, I think, as possible to make a decision is always a good idea. Um, Coming back to the culture real quickly, anyone that works in a business knows that operational excellence is key. And this is something that I've kind of worked with over time, right? How do I maintain operational excellence and a bias for high performance, but also create an environment where people feel safe to take risks? They feel that they're in an environment that cares about them, that values them, that doesn't want to just burn them out and squeeze every last bit out of them. Right? Sometimes those things can be very kind of a dichotomy, but the best cultures that I've seen can balance both. So I'm interested how you have been able to bring that to the organization, or if that's something that was in place, and how you kind of monitor that on a day-to-day basis. Because culture is an evolving organism that's constantly shipping and shifting and shaping. So help me understand that.
Yeah, I love this question, Oz, because that's something that I'm always thinking about, trying to find the balance between both. Because we are in healthcare and it is a business. We're in business of providing care and taking care of our patients. And it is very important for us to maintain positive margins because it allows us to invest in the best talent and we want to provide the best care. We want to ensure that we can also can invest in our equipment and our facilities so we can allow the access to as many people as possible, but also provide the highest quality of care. So all of this is very important to maintain and have it in place. But to your point, what it means that some people and majority of people have to work harder because we're trying to increase our value. We're trying to be as efficient as possible. And the approach I take, first and foremost, I built this as a part of our culture. I want to make sure that people that we hire or people that are with us understand that this is how we operate and this is what is important for us because we are working in very fast-paced environment and surgical center. Also, it's very important for people wear multiple hats. There's not such a thing as your job, it's not my job. We need to be able to help each other we need to be able to flex. So hiring the right people with this mindset that love it and appreciate is very important. But also the very important component is to have a recognition. To recognize the hard work. And again, we have a recognition program in place when we recognize people when they get shout outs from their teammates, from the patients, when they meet certain metrics, because at the end of the day, people want to feel that they belong to something bigger and part of something very important. Also, I'm being very transparent and vulnerable with people. If something happens, I want to make sure I'm there. I'm talking to the team. And if we get very, very busy and everyone works very hard, I make sure that I communicate this to team members and say, I know we had a record-breaking month. You worked very hard. Our volume went up by 30%. In the current world where they see a lot of things are happening, it's great because, again, it helps us to reinvest in team members. It's our job security. It's our ability to provide best patient care. And we have the right team that actually enjoys it. Meantime, we trying to offer as much as possible work-life balance to our team members and ensure that they're happy and find motivation. That's why I sit down with one-on-one with people and I want to see what fires them up, what really drives them, what makes them feel that they belong, they want to come to work every day. And we have this environment that people feel that they can lean on each other. So we're like a family-like atmosphere. So they understand the why behind and they want to be a part of it. But it is a very, very thin balance that we try to achieve. And it gave us amazing results. When I came, our team member satisfaction results were 75% of points, and now we're at 88. So definitely what we do worked very well for us. I'm really proud of the team that we built. But again, it takes an effort to go there for me, to be out there, be vulnerable, being real, being available, and sharing where we're going and appreciating people. And also my leadership team does the same.
Love that.
Finding the right talent for your team doesn't have to be a struggle. Meet Aon Hire, the world's first hiring experience management platform designed to transform the way you hire. Powered by AI, Aon Hire takes the hassle out of every step in the process. From smart resume analysis to customized interview questions, it saves you time, money, and effort. Plus, with real-time insights from every interview, you can quickly identify top candidates, reduce turnover, and stay on budget. And forget about note-taking, Aon Hire takes care of that for you. Ready to revolutionize your hiring process? Visit aonhire.com and get started today.
Now, you've talked about talent acquisition and hiring a little bit as we've gone through this. So let's dive right into the meat of the podcast and let's talk about that. I'd really like to understand, starting off, obviously culture plays a big part, but do you have like a core hiring philosophy when you're looking to bring people into your organization or maybe directly reporting into you? Like what's kind of a core hiring approach and philosophy that you take?
So I want to make sure that, as I mentioned earlier, people are a good culture fit. We invite, not only we interview people, but we also invite people to participate. They will be working with them because we want to make sure it's not only also, let's say like nursing or clinical team, also physicians. And I know it's very important for everyone to get physicians on board and work with us because they bring volume. But at the end of the day, I always tell my team, if the physician is not good culture fit, we're not going to bring the person here. No matter how much we need to fill the block time or how much we need to bring additional cases, we're going to ruin the entire business, entire experience. And it's so hard to build a good team. So we're definitely making sure that we have interview questions when we bring someone around our culture. It can be situational questions or it can be some scenario-based questions that we ask because we had some things happening in the past that we know we don't want to see or want to avoid, and want to make sure the person is the right fit for our culture. But again, we all make mistakes, and we made hiring mistakes as well. And as much as possible, I would love to also have a talent acquisition involved because they can definitely help us to find people that would be culture fit for us based on our values and criteria for our business.
Yeah, it's so important. One of the things that we train our team on, and especially on the full-time hiring and executive search side of our business, is really 80-20 in terms of how much time we spent talking behavior versus skills and expertise. A lot of times, if you know what you're looking at from a CV or a LinkedIn, you can understand if they have the scale, the type of experience. Of course, there's some depth that you want to get into there and be able to articulate that. But ultimately, the most important thing is, what does this company value? Are they aspirational values or real values? What is important to this team? What is important to this manager? How is this person going to fit? And I can tell you that every time that we've erred on the side of the right person and personality, maybe a little bit light on experience or vice versa, it's always been more successful on that side. So that's why we put so much stringence in our behavioral qualification, understanding what it's like to work at the company, employee value proposition, but also what's the dynamic of the team? Because I think there's a broad-based organizational culture, there's a functional culture, and then there's a team culture, right? And those are all kind of micro versions of themselves that if you really want to get it right, you have to be very acute and understand what you're looking at and how this puzzle piece fits in to the broader spectrum of the team. I think a lot of times people make the mistake of evaluating a job against an individual, right? Rather than looking at the individual and how they fit the team and how they fit the gaps. And I don't think that there's a lot of tooling and training out there to think through that. Either you're an intuitive manager who does that naturally or not. And so that's something that I think that as a services business that we put a lot of pride in, and why I think we have such high customer satisfaction rates and success rates in terms of promotion and things like that. Let's ask about a memorable interview experience. Maybe it's one that you were interviewing or you were interviewing somebody. Anybody come to mind? Anything come to mind if I bring up that question?
Yes, I have a memorable, not in a good way.
Well, those are the best ones. Please share.
It was in my previous role. I was looking for associate project manager, and it was a highly competitive job. I have all these young people with the MBAs, which is another thing that always questionable for me. The people without experience go getting MBAs competing for this role, and I went through probably 12 different virtual interviews because first I wanted to screen people before I can bring them in person and introduce them to our chairman and have a higher level conversation. And I had this candidate. She was so lovely, and I already was ready to invite her for in-person interview. And I'm asking her question. To your point, I love asking behavioral or situational questions. And I asked the question, can you tell me what are your biggest strengths? And she said some nice things. And I'm also, what are your things? I don't like to say weaknesses. I say things you feel you need to work on. things you can improve upon. So the candidate, she was thinking about it. And then she says, and it's like, mind you, it's a project manager position, which is very important. And I struggled in the past. I hired someone who couldn't meet deadlines. They weren't self-starters. So I was looking for someone who can come and help me with the projects. And she said, I just like to do everything perfect. So that's why I wait till the very last minute to finish the project. I didn't know how what that were actually matching with. But the person told me right away that she was not a good fit. But I'm so glad that I asked this question. And it kind of ties back to what you were saying, Az. Like, it's so important to ask questions that are related to your work. I was in a situation when I needed to hire someone to fill the role of a manager of operations. And we had two candidates. One candidate had a lot of experience, but had a bad reputation about their behavior. And another candidate didn't have much experience, but she was very upbeat and had a good personality, which was very important because this person had to work a lot with people, especially with clinicians. And my chairman and I had a disagreement because he wanted to hire the more qualified person. And I told him, I can teach the person that doesn't know what to do, but you cannot change their behavior. And actually, the candidate, when I asked the same question, and I know it sounds cheesy about things you can improve upon, the person that had a bad reputation told me she had anger management. This question, you would be surprised. I think people don't expect you to ask this. They don't prepare responses for this type of questions. They blatantly tell you what really is wrong with them, and you definitely need to listen to that. So I'm like, okay, I definitely don't need someone in this role who has anger management issues. And again, it's good that the person is self-aware and they work on that, but I don't think I can change that. I don't think I can influence that. So I went with the person that had a great personality. I spent a lot of time teaching this person, but the end result was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the person who answered the first one probably thought they were giving a great answer. I'm too perfect. Right? I'm a perfectionist, right? 'Cause everybody tries to flip a weakness into a strength. And yet they told you a lot about themselves. And like you said, it's not about bad or good. It's about fit, right? That working style, procrastination doesn't work, obviously, in that role and for your organization, right? Obviously, we don't want to deal with somebody that has a bad reputation that self-admits that they have anger management problems. That's funny. It can be very revealing. One of the ways that I like to frame that question is, what are the things when you get into this new role with us that you want to develop and work on, right? Those are the things that you can see, being growth areas for you. It's another variation of what you've asked, but sometimes I try to project it into what do you want to get better at here? Because then we can talk about, can we satisfy that? Can we train you on that? Can we help you get where you want to go? And a lot of times you get really great insights. So I really love that.
I love it. I'm going to take it for my next interview.
There you go. Write it down. I was going to ask you about favorite questions to ask, but you've asked a lot about some of the situational ones and things like that. What about, like, you made a comment about making mistakes, because we all make mistakes when it comes to hiring. It's one of the hardest things, the most complex things that we do, and to get right, 100% of the time. When you make mistakes, was there a theme there? Was there anything that you had to kind of overcome or learn over time? Or like, what are some of the things that you look back on and say that you had to figure out before you got to the point where you felt really, really, really good about your gut instinct and going with somebody?
Yeah, so I realized early on, I need to be very specific when I ask questions when it comes to job. For example, when I was hiring for a project manager, the job involved a lot of collaborating with doctors that were spread out all over the hospital. It's very difficult to get them together. So I had to ask the question because the previous project manager couldn't get anyone together. So I would have to ask the person that would come on board what they would do, how would they bring people together. Working in the healthcare organization, if it's a patient-facing job, I ask how would they deal with a difficult patient, because that's where a lot of people get it wrong. And I want to make sure that they understand what we are doing here. And people are, most of the time, come to the hospitals or healthcare facilities, they're anxious because they may feel that they're sick, or maybe they're fasting before the procedure. So we need to take into account all of these factors instead of our flipping and just being upset and not being able to deal with this. But even with that, I still made certain mistakes. I think very important when you made a mistake to recognize it early on, because I feel like if someone made a mistake, sometimes people, leaders, afraid to admit that, and they continue to invest in the person, which I've done before, trying to coach, mentor. But there is a point when you realize nothing is going to work. And then what obviously you need to start doing, and HR loves it, to start documenting. I can you mentioned this before, collecting the data point, because at the end of the day, we need to make a case and help people find happiness somewhere else because apparently it wasn't a good match. And again, things happen. But I feel like a lot of people continue going this like down a rabbit hole and keep investing and investing because they made a mistake and they're afraid to acknowledge it.
Yeah, you're actually doing a favor for the person too if it's not a fit. And I've fallen into that trap myself of trying to, either we hired the person wrong or we're managing them wrong. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's not a fit, and sometimes there's diminishing returns. And what you actually realize is that even if you do spend a lot of time with somebody or you give them a benefit of the doubt, a lot of times it's hurting your team, and your team notices that, and it's dragging them down. I mean, at the end of the day, high performers want to work with other high performers, right? And so, yeah, I believe that we should try to, when you hire somebody, give people the benefit of the doubt, but only to a point. And if they're not a fit, they're not a fit. And we have to be decisive in those moments because you're really not letting down the person as much as you're letting down your team. And ultimately you are letting down the person if you're keeping them in a role that they're not a great fit for, in a company they're not a great fit for. Let them find what's better for them. So I totally agree with you on that. If I ask you to think back to the best hire you've ever made, does anybody or any situation come to mind?
Yeah, so this actually the best hire when I mentioned earlier when I was between
One where you bet on the potential, right?
yes,
Versus the
yeah, and
experience.
I had to fight for that person. I wanted to give her a chance because she tried so hard. She even moved from one borough to another in New York City, which is a big deal for this job. And she was very motivated. And after I left, she got promoted and she keeps growing. She went to get her master's degree. I just love seeing people grow and I love developing people. I love sharing the success. And I feel like this is one of the best hires I had because I believed in person when other people didn't. I had to also fight, I'm sorry, HR and hiring her because they said, oh, she was still finishing her bachelor's degree. She was not far, but I'm like, give her a chance. She's great because A, B, C, and D. And they did. And I think it worked out so well. And one of my life motto is to make a difference. And if I can make a difference in one person's life, it already makes me happy. So being a leader allows you this opportunity to develop others and continue your success through other people. And I think that's one of the most rewarding things that I've ever experienced.
And this is why I know you're a great leader, because whenever we talk about, the person that we helped get somewhere, or we're prouder of the team and their accomplishments than our own individual accomplishments, that's when you know that you're service-based mindset. That's how you're somebody that wants to lift others up. And those are always the best leaders. And what, I think companies get into trouble all the time promoting people into management roles because they're good individual contributors. But that's not a signifier of somebody that's going to be a great leader. And it's always that idea of, I care more about what they perform in their production than my own. And I'm going to do everything I can to kind of lift them up. And I hear that from you. I think that's amazing. And it can something that a lot of people should learn from, and particularly at the CEO level. I want to take it in a different direction real quick. We're contractually obligated to talk about artificial intelligence in every podcast in 2025. So I want to ask you, are you using AI in any way in your current job? Are there any plans to implement AI? Are you using it in your personal life? Is AI at any point kind of playing a role in your life or work today?
So yeah, we don't use it at work. Currently AI, and I'm not the best person to talk about it when it comes to my workplace. I do use it in my personal life as a tool that helps me to aggregate the information. In the past, I used, let's say, Google to search. I know I can use AI to help me to gather some information. Then I can make my informed decisions, even sometimes where to go in a restaurant. It's not only
What are
related
the best running shoes for a marathon, maybe?
running shoes. No, seriously, yes. I've asked a lot of questions. Actually, to your early question, Oz, you can ask to write you a program, and I can write you a program based on your desire to run a marathon.
All right. Oz is going to go to ChatGPT and come up with a marathon program that I'm never going to run, because that's just that. I'll be at the finish line with you, waiting with a beer, ready to enjoy. That's more my role.
perfect. I also planned my vacation with the ChatGPT, so we'll see how it's gonna work out. I'll chat.
Okay, you let us know. You got to update us if it went well or if they sent you some hallucination of something.
Yeah.
Do you have a book that you'd recommend to our listeners that maybe you read or you read in the past that that stands out to you?
Yes, I have a few books. I'm a big fan of Brené Brown. I'm all about vulnerability and leadership. So Dare to Lead, amazing book. When I read this book, I was so impressed that I bought this book to all my leaders, clinical leaders in my previous job, because I realized we had a lot of great physicians that were new leaders, but they didn't have a proper leadership training. And I used the book and some of my resources because I was very limited with resources what I can actually invest. So I was being creative, and we had the sessions using Brené's Brown book, and it was very interesting to see how doctors are reviewing vulnerability and then how we conversations we were having. But they were really appreciative, and this book I always give to my leaders here.
Brene Brown is one of the highest recommended people we have on this podcast, high approval ratings. So love her stuff. Last question, and then we're going to move to our speed round. You're not expecting these questions, but they're coming. But let me ask this first. What's some advice that you'd give 20-year-old Dariya that you didn't know then, but that you know now?
Be patient and work on your emotional intelligence. Because I had a team, I ran the business, but I was so impatient and I was lacking in the basic emotional intelligence. So that's very important, because if you want to build a good team, you need to be highly, not just intelligent, but emotionally intelligent leader who projects the values to the team, and be patient with people. Because at the end of the day, what I learned from one of my mentors, people come to work and then want to do their best. And going back to Brené Brown, in one of her books, she was talking about being at your best when sometimes you look at the person and you think, oh my God, how can they even live like this? But you don't know their story. And for this person could be that they're doing their best, and be patient and looking this, being understanding really helped me in life and at work as well.
Oh, great advice. Salient advice. I love that. All right, Dariya, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to our speed round, and we're going to make it marathon running themed. I got some questions for you. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Favorite marathon that's not New York?
Boston Marathon.
Boston Marathon. Okay. What's the best time you've ever run in a marathon?
It was 3:21.
Whoa, that's really good.
Boston qualifier.
What's the most proud you've ever been after a marathon?
Most proud after I qualified for Boston Marathon.
Okay. Why was it such a prideful moment for you?
So it's very difficult to qualify for Boston Marathon. You have to run very fast, and I worked very, very hard to get there. And for any amateur runner, Boston Marathon is like making to Olympics. So definitely was my proudest moment in running.
Favorite running shoe?
I like Brooks, but for speed, it's a Nike with a carbon plate.
Carbon plate. What's your favorite product or anything you've bought that's helped with your running times or helped you with running?
My favorite product, I like my Hyper Ice compression boots. They help with recovery. They're the best.
Love that. Last one. Worst injury you've ever had from running?
Oh, I have a labrum tear, so it's not fun, but manageable.
Well, hold on. Now, I'm not a doctor, but the labrum's up here. How did you get that running?
Oh, it's my hip. It's my hip labrum.
Labrum is in the hip? Damn, man. I really need to work on my kinesiology. Okay, so what happened? How did you tear your labrum?
I don't know. I had a pain for some time. I think I tore it for a while before running, but with running, I made it worse. So yeah, I just tore, and then I just have to manage it. And at some point later in life, I'll have to have a hip replacement, but it doesn't stop me from.
Has not stopped you from running. It doesn't stop you from being a great CEO. It doesn't stop you from being a great leader. Dariya, I'm so appreciative of you coming on. It sounds like your organization is doing some amazing things from a cultural and hiring perspective. I'm so grateful that you came on and shared some of these insights with us. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to meeting in person at some point. Maybe when next time I'm up in New York in a couple of weeks, we can get together. Although I'm going to take an Uber wherever we go. I'm not running. I'm just going to show up. Okay. Is that okay?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Oz, for having me. I enjoyed our conversation. I really hope to meet you in person as well.
Yeah, we will do that for sure. Thanks so much, Dariya. Talk to you later.
Bye.